Inspector Morse in Endeavour. Turns out that Philomena's a big Endeavour fan.
I am.
How about that? Shaun, hello, welcome.
Hello, my friend.
Yeah.
We got you in early so that Philomena could meet you. Look at the excitement on her face.
Nice to meet you,
A little bit
sweetheart.
starstruck.
Yeah.
And Shaun,
I
you've
love Morse as well.
Oh, did you? Good, good.
who is better at playing Inspector Morse out of John Thor and Shaun Evans?
Well, of course. Of course. He's the younger Morse, and he's Morse. Yeah, he gets things in his own way. You work the sequence out in your own way, above your bosses as well, don't you? You know your boss, the chap, I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah.
He's a lovely man too, isn't he?
Yeah.
But you always work it out, don't you?
In your own way. Yeah,
You always work out the story in the end.
Yeah.
And I think he does it in his own way.
He gets it right. He gets it right.
I'm glad that you like it. I'm glad that you like
I
it.
do. I
Good,
watch
thank
it
you.
religiously.
It's a different interpretation to John Thor as well, I think, which is important, isn't it? You know, there's a different. You brought out different sides of his character, I think. Let me say this, Philomena. It sounds to me a bit like you talk about TV shows the way that Philomena, as portrayed by Judi Dench, talks about airport novels.
Yeah, I don't really. Well, in the film, yes.
Yes, Jane, is it
Yes, they definitely certainly got some of her characteristics right. Although Mum, they do make her character out to be simpler than she is in reality, but that's just to draw the viewer in, I think, at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, because you realise in the end that's not the case. But yes, talking to everybody, being nice to everybody, talking about TV programmes, yes, they got that right.
Yeah. I like to be kind to everyone.
Yeah, let's just recount some of the story, Philomena. We were just talking before the news about Anthony. So the film is about your search for your son Anthony, who was given up for adoption against your will by the Mother and Baby Catholic Institution. Was it in Limerick? Did you say? Was it?
No, it's Roscrea, County Tipperary.
Okay. Where he was 3.5, and that was in the 50s. And he began this search for him. He became very successful in America. He worked for President Reagan and for George Bush Sr., George H.W. Bush, a very successful guy. And you began the search for him, and you found out that he'd passed away, and you were telling us you got a call, I think, from a nun, and it was as bad as the day that he left when he was 3.5, and he got very emotional, of course, naturally, as you told us about that. But I guess when you found out about his life and what he'd achieved professionally, you must have felt this incredible pride in him.
I did. Oh, of course I did. And I found out it was the not knowing all my life and having to keep it a secret for 50 years until I told my daughter 10 years ago. And not knowing what had happened to him, because my brother and I used to say, I wonder where he is, I wonder what he's doing. Is he in Vietnam? Is he on death row? You just didn't know what had happened to him.
I thought it was also a great shame. There's many layers of tragedy here, but what a wonderful thing for a parent to, if you'd known him and to watch a son climb a ladder like that, to have enjoyed his success as he'd become bigger and bigger and more important until he'd got to within the White House, within the Oval Office. He was working for President Reagan.
He was, yeah.
To have shared that success.
Senior attorney.
Incredible.
Do you know?
Incredible.
Yeah, sorry, he was senior attorney. Is that the title?
Senior legal counsel.
Senior legal counsel he was.
To President Reagan. This is an astonishing story, isn't it?
Yeah. As I say.
I thought one of the most moving bits in the film, which I guess didn't happen because you didn't go to America in real life. No. You've been since. But you go to meet, Judi Dench's version of you goes to meet Anthony's boyfriend, who I think you have now met, I assume.
We have met him.
And he shows Judi Dench's Philomena a home video of him. And I thought, well, for a film, as a bit of filmmaking, as a dramatic device for, I find it overwhelming. Is there any truth in that? Is there a home video that you have seen, Philomena?
There is.
What was it like watching that?
Oh, cried again, of course. She couldn't stop. He showed when she found out, because she supposedly she went out looking for him and eventually met up with the partner in America, and he showed the back issues of it.
In reality, we met his partner here in Martin's house in London. He came over from the United States and he brought all sorts of memorabilia for Mum, including these home cine films of him when he was a child.
And the rings you're wearing now...
It's a Celtic ring. He loved anything Irish, this one.
And that's the ring that he used to wear, Philomena, that you're wearing now?
Yes, his partner gave that to us. And actually in the movie, some of the cine is real. It's the real footage.
Yeah, it's all real.
When they're small children.
But that man, watching your son's life, who you hadn't seen since he was 3.5.
I know.
And the video, the home video, was there quite a lot of time span? Did it have him as a young man arriving in America right through to the end of his life?
No, it was mostly childhood.
Most of childhood.
Most of the childhood.
The childhood that you missed out on.
Yeah,
didn't you?
as a young, He had a very good life. His adoptive parents, he had a good life and a wonderful education. He went to all the Ivy League universities, you know.
We did have one video of him as an adult, which was to do through his work. I think it had been on the political channel, so we have seen what he was like as an adult and how he sounded.
Yeah.
Just to bring you some news, we're just hearing that an aeroplane has fallen into the sea 2 miles from Gran Canaria.
Oh, God.
So we don't know any more about that. That's Philomena, you can hear reacting to that news in the background there. That is obviously a dramatic story. Number of passengers unknown. So that's what we know at the moment. So an aeroplane has fallen into the sea 2 miles from Gran Canaria, near Spain's Canary Islands, of course. Let's read out some texts that have come in whilst we've been talking. Carl says, "Hi, I've just come back from the States with my wife after making contact with her brother, who was adopted in the exact same circumstances as Philomena's son, at what we believe was from the same place at roughly the same time. The joy experienced by my wife's brother at meeting a blood relative for the first time will be with us forever. Everything went better than we could have imagined. Please thank Philomena for reinvigorating our search after we had more or less given up. There is a lady in the US called Marie, who has also helped my wife. You know this lady, do you? And her brother so much. I'm not a religious man, but Philomena and Marie are angels to us." That's a lovely story. I guess you've probably heard a few stories like that, have you?
Oh, hundreds since we went to America. We've been to America for these hundreds, haven't we?
Why was it so widespread? Why did it happen so much then in Ireland, do you think?
But there were the times.
They were the rules, really.
There were the
church,
rules. You had
weren't
to
they?
go by. You know, I was only a
Yeah.
young teenager at the time, and that we were so ignorant. And
Yeah.
but they were the rules. You had to go by what you were taught at school because, as I say, it was.
From the records, we know 2,200 babies were adopted to the United States. That's the ones they know of. That's the ones with paperwork.
Let me read some more text. Richard, please tell Philomena how wonderful I think she is. I have to say that as a Catholic, I am so ashamed by how she was treated for such a long time. I'm sitting with my 2-year-old daughter and crying my eyes out. Philomena, you are inspirational. That's Matilda of Birmingham. Laura says, "Oh no, I've not seen the film and I didn't know that he died. I'm crying too." C of Harrogate says, "Heartfelt love for Philomena, truly disgusted how this beautiful woman was treated. I'm horrified, God bless. Such a brave and a lovely lady, so sad that she had to suffer the loss of her son at the hands of those who should have known better. I'm in bits listening to Philomena," says somebody else. "I'm loving the Philomena interview. What an amazing woman. We'll be buying the movie as soon as possible. Jim in traffic on the M6 motorway." It is, it's a shame that that moment, it's such an awful moment when in the film, when you find out what had happened to Anthony. And I think people listening will be slightly annoyed who haven't seen the film. But it's kind of impossible. We're telling your story today, and for those that are a bit annoyed because they haven't seen the film, I'm afraid we can't escape that detail in a conversation like this. Jane, you are Philomena's daughter. So Philomena, as we know, met a guy at a fairground one night out, got pregnant, didn't know what pregnant was because the nuns had explained nothing. Your aunt said to you, you look pregnant, and you said, "What's pregnant?"
I did.
And your son was taken away from you at 3.5. You saw him driven away. You saw his face in the window of that car as he's driven away.
All I could see was the face of the man.
What age were you? 17?
She was 18 when she gave birth.
18.
Yeah, so 22.
So 22.
22, 23.
Sean, actually, if you just come slightly closer to the mic whilst you speak, let me make it a bit louder as well. And in the film, you retain your faith. Jane, you didn't know about Anthony for years and years. When did your mum tell you about Anthony?
11 years ago.
11 years ago.
Yes.
How did she explain it?
She just came round one night to my house and just came out with it. Said she'd had a baby in the 1950s in Ireland.
What made you tell her then?
My brother in Ireland. I used to go home every year, and he was my brother that knew, the young brother. He was a young man then.
He's the only man that knew, isn't he, in the family?
And he said, "Will you, for goodness sake, go home and tell your daughter and your son."
How often were you thinking about Anthony over those years?
Oh, I never forgot him the whole of my life. I prayed for him night and day, usually, that one day I would find him. All I ever wanted to do was to find him. to see what happened to him, having to give him up at 3.5, and rearing him for 3.5 years.
How many pictures of him did you have?
She gave me
There's about a dozen.
the little nice nun that was there. She got me from when he was 12 months old.
And you kept those
I kept them
hidden somewhere in the
Well,
house away from Jane. You'd never seen them.
She
so-
They
did.
weren't
She had
hidden. They
seen
were in with all the family photos. And I had asked my mum when I was a child who this little boy was, because he looked in quite an odd place and he had nuns with him. And she just said that it was her cousin's son, so I just believed that. But when she told me, I knew immediately who that child was.
But it was the awful shame that we couldn't tell. And my age group now, and a lot of women are the same, still can't come out with it. The older women like myself, because we were so ostracised about committing a mortal
are
sin.
you-
We were Magdalens and we were, God, no, we were no good.
Are you religious, Jane?
No, I wasn't.
No.
I used to go to church when I was younger, but no.
What's your view of the Catholic Church now?
I don't. I'm like my mum. I don't feel angry about what happened in the 1950s because I think it's difficult. You can't put today's values on something that happened historically. But I'm very angry with them now that they still won't tell anybody anything, particularly in Ireland. You can't get any information or any straight information from
It's
them.
outrageous, isn't it?
It
I don't understand.
Yes.
As I said earlier, when you were telling me about when they made the phone call to tell you that Anthony had been passed away, and it was just done in such a cold way, it just seems like it seems to be one layer of emotionless response on top of another. I don't understand it on a human level. I don't understand it.
They, the Catholic Church haven't apologised for mother and baby homes. The Magdalene girls, the Magdalene laundries, they were apologised to by the government, I believe, Irish government last year. But the church still haven't apologised for that, and they certainly haven't apologised for mother and baby homes either. I think they feel if they apologise, then they admit liability for something, I believe.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Philomena, it's so good to see you and to speak to you. And the film is terrific, but it's an even better story because the film's a couple of hours long. You can't get it all in.
You can't get it all in.
The reality is even more compelling, in some ways even more distressing and even more heartbreaking.
It was the part where he went 3 times looking for me and they told him I'd abandoned him in 2 weeks. And I reared him for 3.5 years.
And that makes me angry.
Oh, I tell you.
Of course.
Because that wasn't in the 1950s, that was in the 1990s.
They said,
Yeah.
just tell me that again. They said what? They said,
When he went looking for me,
yeah.
he was desperate to try and find me. And he knew, I think, that in the end that he had the AIDS and what have you. But he went looking for me and they said, they had told him, I don't know when it was the first time or the last time he went looking for me, that I had abandoned him at 2 weeks and they didn't know where I was. Now, when I went to England after he was adopted, every new address I ever had, I wrote to them. Never got any answers back.
So it's what we're talking about here is not
He-
just that they had dealt with you in a very
wanted to
cold
find
way.
me.
He wanted to find you
They
desperately.
definitely yeah.
They lied.
But they
They
lied.
lied.
But they actually
They
chose
did.
to lie.
Yes. Not just to my mum, to many, many people that are in a similar situation.
Philomena, aren't these people meant to be close to God?
They are, yeah.
How have you retained your faith?
I didn't. I lost it for quite a while, actually. I did. But over the years, working in a psychiatric hospital for 30 years, and I can assure you, you see some very sad, tragic sights. I was very angry in the beginning, but after working in a psychiatric hospital, and you see so much pain and sorrow that's caused through anger, that I was gradually, over the years, and my age now, gradually let it go. And
I
just
suppose one
started going back to church again.
great thing as well is that through the film, partly through the book, but more through the film, lots and lots of other mums have gone searching for their kids, and we heard from the lady there who found her brother, and this is happening because of you and Anthony, and so Anthony, you didn't get to meet Anthony
No.
again, and he had passed away, but there's a legacy of his life, isn't there?
Is, yeah.
And that must bring you
He's,
some
yeah.
some happiness.
He, when he was young, his partner went with him to Ireland looking for me. And he said, but when anything happens to me, please, please, will you have my ashes brought back so that one day my mother will find me? And so I thought, oh, my goodness.
Yes, that's an important part. He's buried back at the
He's
convent.
buried
that
back
is
in the
true.
convent now where I can go and visit him anytime, But he was there 9 years before I ever knew it. 9 years he was buried
So
there.
that detail is completely true.
Never
Yes.
knew he was there. And I could fly from Luton in an hour,
Yeah. But you go and see him and you go and
Oh,
visit
yeah.
him, and
say my prayers to him. And
do you?
Oh, I do.
You talk to him?
Talk away to him every day.
Do you?
Yeah, I do.
I think the funniest line in the film is where the Judi Dench version of Philomena finds out that he was gay, or at least he's told he was gay. And Martin Sixsmith, Steve Coogan sort of said, "Well, that must be a surprise." And she says, "Oh, I always knew he was gay." Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, and I always knew he was gay because he wore dungarees. Can you imagine me saying something like that?
She didn't say that.
No,
No.
well,
I never said it.
Given that you didn't know what pregnant was, it doesn't seem likely that you would have thought that you would know what gay
I had
was.
absolutely no problem with it when she
We
found
had,
out.
when I first heard it, I thought, oh my God, they'd make me out a right dumb cluck.
Yeah.
But there again, they had to put some laughter into it because of the tears, so many tears. Because even men in America, they come up and they say, we cried buckets when we see it. You know, even the men have cried when they've seen it. It's very tearful at times.
But it's funny too. It is very
It's
funny.
funny.
It's not
It's
all
very
doom and
funny.
gloom.
It's not all
well
doom and gloom.
balanced.
Yeah,
Sean,
it's
can you stay around past 5:30? We're
Yeah,
sort
of
of eating
course,
into
yeah,
a
of
slot,
course,
but
of
you just
course.
stick around. We'll get
Yeah,
plenty
certainly,
in.
man, certainly.
Sean Evans here plays the young Inspector Morse in Endeavour Morse, of which Philomena is a fan.
Of course.
The real Philomena is with me, as is Sean Evans, as is Philomena's daughter Jane. Some more text. Hello, I wasn't angry that you revealed the story. I'm just sad for Philomena. The Philomena interview is superb, almost in tears. She's a very brave woman. Another text says, my mum, also from Tipperary, had a child out of wedlock. Her first of 7. I am number 5. Her sister brought me up. We discovered him at 10 years. Sorry, it's not quite entirely makes sense. I'll come back to that, all right? Some words missing. Let me ask you this. The concept of mortal sin, Philomena, it was a mortal sin to have a child out of wedlock.
Out of wedlock.
Is it still a mortal sin in the Catholic
I
Church?
don't think so. No, for goodness, I wouldn't believe that for a minute. That was the church ruling, the hierarchy of the church in those days. I mean, we just believed everything we were told. Like I've told you, it was a mortal sin if you had meat on a Friday.
Yeah.
It was a mortal sin if you didn't go to Mass on a Sunday, and so on and so on. So many things. But then
It
you
was
had
a
to go to-
mortal sin
Yes.
to have meat on a Friday. And then you could be forgiven for that by confessing, could you?
You could. You had to go to confession then tell the priest.
And so everything from eating meat on a Friday through to murder, if you just went and confessed, you could restart and move on.
Yeah.
Do you ever think this system is just absolutely bizarre?
Well, did I know? What did I know at the age of 16, 18?
No, I
20?
know.
No,
So you
I
know what
didn't
you know, and you know from a very young age, this is what you're told, so you don't
Yeah.
question it, do you?
You believe everything you're taught, and you don't question it. We didn't question it those days, because, I mean, you wouldn't dare anyway question. You just believed what they taught you, and that was it.
You went to the Oscars.
Then I got the Oscars.
Who did you meet? Of all the people you met, who excited you the most?
Bono.
Yes.
Okay.
And Edge. Is it Edge?
It is,
Bono
yeah, it
and the
is.
Edge, and I think a certain James Bond actor,
Oh, yes, James Bond.
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig, yeah. And we used to go to the after parties, and all the stars. Michael Douglas, I can't. My daughter, for my birthday, was on Monday, and she did she used to take the photographs in the background. Am I on there?
Yes.
Oh, and then she would give me 2 great big photographs.
Printed them all off,
Pictures. She printed them all off.
Fantastic.
And the names on there, I can assure you. You wait till I put them up in the kitchen. at
Delighted
home.
with them. Fantastic.
Jane, you started this off, didn't you? Wasn't it? You brought in Martin Sixsmith, who wrote a book, who gave it to, I don't know who gave it to, but it ended up with Steve Coogan and Jeff Pope and became a film. I mean, the journey is absolutely breathtaking, isn't it?
It
So
is.
all the way through to the
Breathtaking.
Oscars.
Absolutely. And none of it was ever planned. It has
No.
just evolved. A friend of mine knew Martin. Martin wrote the book. Steve Coogan read an article in the newspaper. He contacted us.
No, Steve
here
read
we
an
are.
article, that's how it began.
Yes,
isn't
when the
it?
book came out. There was an article which kind of gives the whole story, but he was in tears by the end of the article. I think before even reading the book, he contacted Martin about optioning the rights for the film. Because he was touched by it.
Well, thank you for coming in, guys. We have to leave it there.
you.
But you must, now that knowing what you know about Anthony, you must be so proud of him.
Oh, I'm so proud and so happy. I know he's at peace, and I know he's in heaven.
And I
Yes,
think he would be
believe.
very
I
proud
do
of her.
believe, you know. I
And he
do.
would be very proud
He
of
would
you,
have-
wouldn't
I
he?
think he would, because his friends that we met when we were in Washington said, we know he's been organising it from up there. Because he was a great organiser as well, apparently. They said, I reckon he was, and so do I believe that as well.
Well, Philomena and Jane, what a
Thank
great
you.
privilege and honour. That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Nice
Shaun,
to meet you.
nice to meet you as well. And Shaun Evans is here, who I imagine will now be watching the film for
I certainly will, and getting the book.
and getting the book. That's the thing, we're going to get the book as well.
Incredible. Like, you've changed
Yeah,
that
the book is
tragedy.
different to the, the film is
If
more...
you read the book and watch the film, you get the whole picture.
Yeah, incredible.
Thank you, guys. Thank you
Meet
so
you, Shaun.
much. And the film is out on DVD this week as well. There's Philomena and Jane. Shaun, we're going to come back to you. We're going to come back to you straight after the news. Let me just bring you an update on the news about the aeroplane that I told you a moment ago.